everybody. It's Monday, May 24th, and that means it's time for another episode of Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia, Nonprofit Conversations. I'm one of your hosts, Cecilia Supp. I am the principal and founder of Road Tulips Nonprofit Consulting, and I'm here with my co-host and friend, Agnes, and our regular guest in Cyber Story, Sanjay Deo. I'm going to throw it over to Agnes to say hello and introduce herself.
Thank you, Cecilia. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our global audience, wherever you're joining us from. My name is Agnes Amos Coleman. I'm an author and a consultant. Over to you, Cecilia.
Great. Thank you, Agnes. And as I mentioned, we are here with our friend and regular guest, Sanjay Deo of 24/7 Security. And today he is going to lead us through a discussion on ransomware and the need for cyber insurance and backup plans. Welcome back, Sanjay.
Good to see you, Cecilia and Agnes. Agnes, glad to have you back. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it very much. My name is Sanjay Deo. I am the founder, president of 24/7 Security. We provide cybersecurity advisory services to the board, C-level, and anybody that would listen. I guess it's getting to that point. In the last 2 weeks, you must have all heard about how you would not get gas if you were in the Charlotte area, New Jersey area, in Florida, in Georgia, because there was a pipeline. Think about it, an 80-year-old company delivering pipeline, and something had happened to it, right? A ransomware attack happened to it. So I think today's topic is all about that. So that's what I will talk about, cyber impacting now general public.
Yeah, and Sanjay, when we were prepping for this episode and you pointed out we had this major attack on the gas supply on the East Coast, and a major healthcare system on the West Coast was attacked and held ransom and couldn't treat their patients very easily. So what we have here is people attacking not only our infrastructure, but our personal health and safety. And that's why it may seem like ransomware may not happen to you, but it could, because it could impact you in one of those ways.
Yeah, so, I think what is going on is that they are preying on our emotions. I believe, if you have heard my previous few webinars, there are, hackers are four kinds. There are hackers who are casual, who are just playing around. There are hacktivists. There's organized crime. And then the fourth kind, which is the state-sponsored hackers, the latter two, right? The organized crime and the state-sponsored hackers, they are becoming more and more pervasive. And especially the state-sponsored hackers, which are the different countries who are getting into this business of collecting data. Their first objective is to collect the data. The second objective is while collecting data, can they make money? I think those are the two things, right? And so that's what's going on. Healthcare systems are a sitting target. You have hundreds and thousands and millions of patient records that are available in a healthcare system hospital. Now, Pipeline was the first one, right? We haven't seen a massive attack like this before. And so that was a call on all of our utilities in our country. Right? Up till now, we may have seen a 2-hour or 4-hour electrical outage in your city. Could be a cyber attack, could be a physical lightning strike. We don't know that. We don't get to know that. But this pipeline thing that started and stayed for about 8 days, that actually, there are lessons to be learned. It happened. We dealt with it. We dealt with it at the highest level. The White House had to get involved, because it was affecting millions and millions of people. Coming up to Memorial Day, East Coast, right? So many 15 different states were getting impacted because the pipeline was completely shut down and it was not delivering gas. And so we had to go back to our critical reserves. And so if it had gone on beyond 9 or 10 days, it would have been catastrophic. And so now that cyber is everywhere, what do we do? How do we deal? I think that's the prime question in front of all of us.
Well, and I think, you have mentioned before in your previous appearances the need for backup systems. And you and I have talked about that and keeping our passwords up to date and difficult. But I think really in a lot of these situations, the backup system should be the priority, simply because you need to have another way to access your data. And we're moving so much of our data into digital formats, and we have to access everything online. And is how a lot of people who aren't really familiar with stuff get taken advantage of, like we've talked about before. But I think, what is the best way for an organization or a business? So, our audience is mainly nonprofits and people who work with nonprofits. So what is the best step for them to try to build that backup system?
I think in the nonprofit, smaller, mid-sized companies, you should ask your IT professional, hey, how is my backup looking? When was the last time my backup was tested? There are some very simple solutions. There are some very simple software available that you can go onto their website, subscribe, swipe your credit card, download the app or download the software onto your computer. And then basically what happens is that piece of software starts to collect the data from your computer and saves it in a cloud. So even if your computer gets lost or gets a ransomware or gets a malware, at least your important files are backed up. You should just do Google cloud backup. There are a number of companies, and you can read the reviews, look at the pricing, and come up with a solution for yourself or for your small company. 5, 10, 20, 30 people. It's very easy to actually make sure you have a cloud backup solution, because if you have a ransomware, if there is a lost laptop, if something were to go wrong, at least you have a copy that you can fall back on and recover very quickly. So in this whole thing, backup. Go ahead, Agnes, you were saying something.
I was going to say that I don't want us to lose sight of, training here, because yes, we as association community, we can talk to our IT experts, some of them internal, some of them are outsourced. But I think there's an important element here that we need to engage in right from the board level down. How do we engage everybody within the association community to minimize the risk? Be aware of what's going on, make sure that they're doing their due diligence in the process, particularly when we have, if for instance, if we have our IT community that are outsourced, how do we make sure that everybody's on the same page? And when things like this do happen within our association community, how are we at the forefront of that and managing it very well and very promptly as well? So I kind of just want you to talk to that thought process, because as Cecilia said, our community is completely different from a pipeline organization. How is their risk going to be different, and how can they mitigate some of those risks?
I think in smaller companies, traditionally you outsource it to a small IT company. I think you should talk to them. You should ask them question. Hey, are you backing up? And how soon can I get back my files if my systems go down? I think that should be question number one, because if you're paying them to back up, you should ask them about the restoration process. That's number one. Number two is, hey, if I get ransomware, how are you and your software going to protect me? I think those are two simple business questions, non-technical questions you can ask, and you can make sure that they are documented in your contract, right? What is the service level agreement? If my systems go down, how soon will you bring them back up for me? I think that those don't require knowledge of software. Those don't require knowledge of ransomware. Those don't require knowledge of what kind of ransomware and those kind of things like that. So I think just asking simple questions about what your IT company is providing you will make that conversation and make that clear to the buyer as to what will happen if I get into the situation.
Well, and I'm sure we all have stories about this. I used to work at an association where we kept our data at a company offsite, and they got struck by lightning, and we lost the previous 30 days. of data. They had no backup for our data. So we brought it in-house, because then we could have a backup. And so we would have to do a backup on, like, I think we did a backup once a week, because this was the olden days where you had to put it in like a hard drive. You know, because yes, I do remember the 5¼ inch floppy disk. Some people might go, what the heck is that? But we weren't that, it wasn't that long ago. But I know for a fact, Sanjay, that having that online backup system is just such a lifesaver, because I have one, all my computers are connected to it. Because it's another thing to keep in mind. If you use different computers, each computer has to be connected to the account, not just one computer. So I have an account. I don't want to give anybody free advertising, but I do use one. I've used it for years, and it has saved me more than once, whether it's been a virus or just moving to a new computer. It's very easy to move your, also if you're just getting new equipment, it's a great thing to have, because you can just load all your stuff from your backup in the cloud. But you have to be prepared, and you also have to make sure you have some computer somewhere that's not going to get infected.
Right.
If you're
exactly.
attacked, you got to have like a safe computer to bring everything back, because otherwise you're going to have to pay these guys, or you're going to be done, or you're going to have to start from scratch. And how can you start from scratch? Because some membership associations have thousands of members. So even if you have a paper file for each one, who's going to enter all that stuff?
That's right. Yeah.
And Sanjay, so, I'm just curious here, Sanjay. There's no relevance here, but I'm just curious. What are the consequences for these hackers that require ransom of millions and millions of dollars? Is there consequences? Are there organizations or governments that are out there, they partner and collaborate together to make sure that they protect this individual, to protect their citizens and individuals like us and businesses? I'm just curious, from your professional expertise, what your thoughts are on this.
So unfortunately, because this is an invisible enemy, right? This is an invisible enemy. You don't know where they are. You don't know where they are based. You don't know which country they are. The challenge basically is that we still have not seen any prosecutions. So think about it, right? Your computer gets a malware, you click on it, you now have a ransomware, you get a note, everything is being communicated via email with the hacker. You don't know where the hacker is. You don't know which country, which location, where they are. They are asking payments in Bitcoins. You pay in Bitcoins. Bitcoin, to some extent, in other countries is anonymized. So when the money leaves, that money is gone. You can't track it. You can't trace it. So the consequences right now are zero. That's why they are enjoying this luxury, and that's why they're going after us. So they stop our way of life, right? The bad actors are stopping our way of life. They are hurting our healthcare. They are hurting our utilities. But are we able to prosecute them? Are we able to go after them? We are starting to go after them, right? So there are task forces being built. There are communications happening with other countries at the government level, so that the countries can understand that if their citizen is caught doing something like this to another country, that there will be consequences, right? So that's basically where we are going, but this is uncharted territory. So the onus is on us to make sure that we have good backups. Apart from passwords, we turn on multi-factor authentication, right? Like your bank has turned on multi-factor authentication. When you log into your bank, they send you a token or a text message, and you put that in. Makes it harder for the hackers to do anything to you, right? Those are the two things. And small businesses and associations, the third thing I tell everybody is get a cyber insurance. Cyber insurance. So any loss of revenue, any loss of productivity, any cost associated with investigating these cyber incidents, ransomwares, any ransom payouts, they're covered under this cyber insurance. So those are three things I tell everybody: backup, multi-factor authentication, and make sure you get a good cyber insurance. You can play defense, but by using multi-factor authentication and backup, you can start to play offense also.
Mm,
Love that. I love that.
yes.
Being a former athlete, I always love a good sports analogy. So it's like, yeah, good offense, good defense. And that's what we can do. And a good offense is making sure you're not opening these emails or clicking on anything in these crazy emails, you know. And Sanjay and I have talked about that in a previous episode of Cyber Story about look at what the email address actually says. And if you get something from the Royal Bank of Scotland, make sure you actually have an account there, right? Because no, you probably don't. Well, we're already at the end of the episode. This is a sobering case study. The invisible enemy hackers, and we all need to be aware of it. And always love having you on the show, Sanjay, and you give great advice. So I want to ask Agnes for any closing thoughts first, and then we'll come back to Sanjay for a closing thought.
No, I think for our association community, there's definitely an awareness issue here that we're not exempt. If the big corporations are not exempt, we're definitely not exempt from the situation. So we need to be very vigilant. We need to learn and share best practices with one another, particularly like you rightly said, Sanjay, if we outsource our IT elements, which a lot of our association community tend to do, I think there needs to be a lot of vigilance and awareness and dialogue with IT experts. So thank you, Sanjay, for sharing your insights. Appreciate it.
Great, thanks, Agnes. And then Sanjay, what is the thought today that you would like people to take away?
You know, I having worked in this industry and dealing with people, right? We can implement the best technology. We can have the best technology, but if they're not following it, so that's why, you know, I try to come up with simple messages, right? Backup, multi-factor authentication, and cyber insurance. If people who are listening can remember 1, 2, maybe 3 of these things, that's going to protect them. Now, it's not about your work. It's not about where you work. It's not about the company. It's not about the association. Make sure you practice these 3 things at home also. Individually, you may not get the cyber insurance, but practice the first 2. Make sure you have backups of all your important information, and you have multi-factor authentication. They will protect you personally. They will protect your family. They will also protect you at work and associations. So that would be my thought. It's like, make sure you do some basic cyber hygiene. It is as easy as washing your hands. It's as easy as brushing your teeth. It's as easy as switching the light off at night. It's as easy as backing it up and making sure that you have a multi-factor authentication. Cyber, internet, and cyber are utilities, right? 10 years ago, they were new. That was internet. That was, I'm going to go on Amazon and buy stuff. But now, internet is anything like utility. When you go to any place, what do you say? We don't ask about air conditioning anymore. Think about it for a second. The only thing we ask about is, do you have free Wi-Fi? So we are starting to take internet and Wi-Fi for granted. And so all I'm saying is the moment you connect yourself to the internet, make sure you're backing it up so you have something to go back to if something goes wrong. Make sure you have MFA, multi-factor authentication, turned on.
Yeah, actually, a lot of my services do that now. So, but I need to ask my bank because my bank is not doing it. So I think I have to ask them to turn it on. Wow, that's great advice, Sanjay. Sanjay, could you quickly share your website with our audience in case they want to learn more or get in touch with you?
Absolutely. The name of the company is all one word, 24by7security.com, 24by7security.com, one word. And they can basically get on our website. We have tons of free information. And then if you need to talk to us, just send us a quick email at contact@24by7security.com, and someone would call you back within 4 hours.
Wow, that's amazing response time. Wonderful. All right. So call Sanjay and he can answer your questions, everyone. And We want to thank Sanjay again for being part of this continuing series, Cyber Story, in which we discuss news of the day or just remind you of things that can help keep you safe online. So thanks for joining us. We have to go rogue for now, but we'll be back next time with another exciting episode. So I want to thank my host, co-host and friend Agnes, and want to thank our friend Sanjay for being here today. So if you want to learn more about Rogue Tulips, you can check us out online at roguetulips.com, and we promise you'll be safe checking out our website online. And we encourage you to check out the 501c League, which is a virtual membership group for everyone in the nonprofit community and the people who love them. You can check them out at the 501cleague.net. So we will see you next time for another exciting episode. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.